Roblox tower defense games have had a severe falling out over the past few years. They used to all be unique takes or recreations of the genre, but now it's become a saturated mess full of cash grabs, content farms, and just generally low quality games. And even games that have really hit it big in the scene, most of them just collect money and barely even update the game anymore. Let's take a look at the various types of tower defense games on the platform. The innovative, the bad, and the painfully mediocre. Most of these cases throughout the video will be on certain topics that encompass multiple games, but TDS is so massive and has such a great uprising that it kinda deserves to be its own case. Let's talk about what it did right. Now, I've been with TDS pretty much since the week of its release, when the whole lobby was just a massive metal cube, and back then it didn't have much. However, the new animation style back in 2019 was revolutionary, and with the only competition being tower battles that had sparse updates, it quickly grew to the #1 spot. The devs didn't stop there though. For the span of around 2-ish years, they added new game modes, towers, skins, maps, a hidden wave, a versus mode, a working leaderboard, and many unique maps along with seasonal events every 2 to 3 months. And then we got to Halloween 2020, and the updates just kind of stopped. For 7 months. Now, I do understand that devs might have been burnt out and didn't have the funds to transfer the workload to someone else, so I'll kind of give this hiatus a slide. But the next events are just inexcusable. Frost Invasion finally came out after all that, and it was actually a pretty good event. Besides events though, all they really added were like 2 extra towers and new skins with a rehull of a few maps. The next events go as follows. Frost Invasion released in May 2021 and lasted for 8 months. Solar Eclipse then released, and it took another 5 months for the next one, which is only almost half the year, so not terrible. Then Duck Hunt came out, and the next event didn't come out for 9 months. And guess what? This event was such a reskin, so much so, that people were using strategies for Duck Hunt and applying it to this one. And there wasn't another event for 9 more months. I guess they finally picked it up recently though, because after Lunar Overture, Krampus's Revenge was only released 3 months later. You may be thinking, oh, but they probably added new towers with game modes during the downtime of those events, which is partially correct, but between the combined 2.5 years of downtime, all they did was remake Hardcore, make balancing changes, and make slight upgrades on the UI and graphics of the game. Now, as I said, during Halloween 2020, the game was relatively new and the owners might have been burnt out and did not have enough funds to transfer the workload onto someone else. But during all this downtime, the game stayed at a minimum of 10k concurrent players. I mean, with those numbers for that long, I'm sure Below Natural is swimming in money right now. Like, the least he could do is just to hire more developers to do the work for him. In the end though, it's going to take a lot for the game to actually die. But this lack of updates set the bar quite low for the tower defense community and allowed much worse games to actually rise to the top. Which leads us to our next case, arguably the worst one in this video. Content farm tower defense games are something I don't think any of us would have expected to actually gain popularity. But unfortunately, short form content has lobotomized us all so much so that these games are actually playable for some people. There are quite a few of these already, so I'll just go over each one quickly. First up is Circus Tower Defense. The graphics aren't terrible, but the gameplay is basic and the monetization is absolutely insane. For reference, what do you see when you join TDS? You get a few different events, the elevators, and your daily reward. When you join this game, you see 8 different purchasable items, most of which have jacked up prices so you can say, oh, it's on sale, get it now before it's 2 million Robux, along with gambling, an AFK farm for that sweet premium payout, and enough colors to kill someone with epilepsy. The game clearly has some effort put into it, but it's really only to make money. And also, some of the features, like the game modes, are copied from another content farm game. It's just like a never-ending cycle of garbage. Lethal Tower Defense is a slight upgrade, as the graphics aren't extremely colorful and actually match the original game's art style. However, the game has just as much monetization as the previous game, including Robux gambling with chances they probably lied about just to get more money. Although this game has effort put into it and some unique features, it is once again just a cash grab to capitalize off of children. Another thing that both of these games do is that instead of pre-programmed waves, they use a system to make it endless. This keeps people in the game for longer and only milks premium payout more. The last and biggest one on this list is Toilet Tower Defense. Now, I have a special hatred for this game in my heart because it's actually the jankiest piece of garbage I've ever played, and even though it came out during a lot of high quality games like TDX and TDS, it still managed to beat all of them in concurrent players by insane margins. The gameplay is monotonous, the enemies have no special abilities, the animations are made up of like 5 keyframes, and the gambling is just as bad as the other games I mentioned. And yet, it is still the most popular tower defense game on Roblox right now. Oh, and don't even get me started on the amount of shameless copies this game has. Let's count. We have 1, 2, 3, 9 copies that have above 100 players. That is just insane to me. As more trends come out, more of these will be created and the old ones will die. Their only purpose is to make money, because if it wasn't, the devs would know that these trends won't last forever, and the game will eventually fall off. Let's talk about some lesser known tower defense games that are actually enjoyable to play, and have some new features that actually bring life into this genre. The first game that comes to mind for me is World Tower Defense. This game adopts a different style of play, where the enemies come from everywhere and will actually attack your towers. This type of tower defense has been done before, but this is the first game to actually do it well. World also has a few unique towers like the Destructor and Brawler, who actually moves toward enemies. Retro style it adapts is also cool, however it has been used in many other games, so I can't give it too much credit. These are all great features, but the most unique one is how you can actually collect hats for your avatar by defeating bosses, and these hats give unique buffs and debuffs to your tower that can alter your playstyle. Overall, this game has a lot of effort and creativity behind it, and I hope other games could take notes. Flavor Frenzy is another tower defense game that had many unique features that tower defense games really needed, including a fully fleshed out campaign with an actual story behind it. The designs are also in a new art style that isn't the normal blocky R6 avatar. And on top of all this, it has unique events with their own little bits of story before each one. Pixel Gun Tower Defense I'll just quickly mention because the feature of putting guns on any character with unique buffs and debuffs of said gun is really cool. I also like the gadgets because they add another layer of gameplay on top which help with strategies and such. Specifically relating to gadgets, I'm really glad they didn't use the overused trope of a farm with zero downsides that just generates a ton of money and is necessary for every late game tower. The jukebox has a perfect balance of it being actually helpful if you want to use it, but not completely overpowering anything that would replace it like a portable sentry. Tower Blitz is the last one in this segment. The game's art style is kind of like TDS's, except a bit more softer and cartoony. My favorite feature this game revolutionized are daily challenges, but not standard challenges like play 5 rounds. Instead, it's uniquely curated challenges with special modifiers, specific towers you have to use, and specific enemies you need to fight. The game also has kill effects, and a few unique towers like the Trapper and Light Beamer. For those of you wondering where TDX is, it's here. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. The game is mid. Most of the towers were things we've all seen before, and the ones that are new don't really add much variety to the game. I mean, hell, the coolest thing about this game is the freaking planes that drop care packages for the farm. Anyway, every game I mentioned in this video are extremes on the bell curve of TDS games. Most tower defense games are just uninspired, pretty basic games that don't really offer anything new, which is also why this genre became so mid. Like, actually go on the Discover page of Roblox and look up tower defense. After scrolling past a half a page of Skibbity Toilet related games, I'm sure you could at least find 10 tower defense games that are just reskins of the default gameplay loop. If you're an aspiring Roblox developer and want to make it in the tower defense genre, you gotta do two things. One is make it as flashy as colorful as possible to keep the attention of the average 6-year-old for more than 3 seconds. And the other, and more important one, is to actually have something that sets you apart from other games. Like, nobody just wants to play a reskin TDS if your version has fewer towers, fewer events, and a jankier art style. They'd rather play actual TDS, the game they've stuck with for longer and is just objectively better than yours. In the end, the tower defense genre has lost a lot of fire that it first had in 2019 through 2021. Most of the top tower defense games are unfortunately just made for money now, and it's disappointing that the genre really now just exists for 6-year-old iPad kids who have way too much money to spend. Well, all we can hope for now are games that actually bring something new to the table. I'm Balake, and this is the fall of tower defense games. Thanks for watching.